I male 46 used to work in the military, so I was away from home most of the time. When my then only son was 3 years old, I discovered by accident that he wasn't mine. He was my older brother's. It was the most devastating time in my life aside from what I was dealing with. My ex-wife and I ended up divorcing, and I cut contact with my brother for years. I was done with him even after my ex-wife, who he married the same year of the divorce, died suddenly. My parents thought my ex's death was supposed to make everything okay, as they claimed she was the one who drove a wedge between me and my brother, but I kept my distance. My nephew started reaching out to me, and we began seeing each other more often when he was around 15. He has always been told that the fight between me and my brother was about business. My parents threatened to disown me if I told my nephew that his mother was my ex and that I should leave it alone, which I did, since they said if they had to choose they'd pick their grandson. My nephew tried to get me to meet my brother so we could talk, since my brother welcomed the idea, but I refused. I made it clear to him that he needed to stop forcing a reunion, and he respected my wishes. He's now 21 and is getting married on Nav. He sent an invitation which I declined and returned right away. He called to ask why, and I said I'm no contact with his dad, so I won't come since he will be there. My nephew refused to accept that and came over and started criticizing me, saying I'm being unnecessarily bitter and resentful towards his apologetic dad over some business, and said he cannot believe how much hate and grudge I keep inside me against his dad. He said I either try to work things out with his dad or he will not be seeing me again. I felt hesitant first, but then told him his dad and I don't have a usual beef, and that his mother was my ex-wife who his dad messed around with while I was in military. My nephew denied, saying his dad and grandparents never told him that. He thought I was lying till I showed him enough proof to get him to change his tone. He left in a hurry and was enraged. I later found out via my parents that my nephew cancelled all my family's wedding invitations, put the wedding on hold, and disappeared after he had a huge argument with them and disowned his dad. My father has got very sick after this incident, and my entire family keep harassing me, saying I ruined everyone's life with what I did because of my hate and resentment towards my brother. They said they warned me not to talk, and now I should deal with the consequences of alienating their grandson from them. Not the idiot. Your nephew is an adult, fully capable of making his own choices. You were pressed for an answer. Your options were to no longer have your nephew in your life, meet up with your brother, or tell him the truth. Your family threatening to disown you for telling nephew the truth is super toxic. I can understand not telling him when he was a child, and even to a certain extent as a teen, but once your nephew was an adult he deserved to know. Your nephew deserves to know the truth. Your brother and your ex-wife betrayed you and should not be upset with the truth. If they wanted to protect your nephew, they should have kept both of you apart. Pity as usual, they blame you, the victim of their actions, when the problem of keeping it a secret fails. I am sure he is upset to find out he is a product of his father cheating with his brother's wife. Your family is delusional if they thought that they could keep it secret forever. If they had not tried to keep it secret and your nephew had grown up knowing the truth, he might not have blown up the way he did. He blew up because he realized that his family had lied to him his entire life. You tried to not say anything, but your nephew was like a dog with a bone, and he would not let up pressuring you for an answer. The truth will set you free. My son and daughter-in-law had their twins last year. They didn't want to put them in daycare and asked me if I could watch them. I've been doing childcare my whole adult life as a nanny. At the time, I had a well-paying nanny job. My son and daughter-in-law couldn't afford to pay me as much, but I didn't mind as they're my grandkids and I love them. I do it for free, but I have to pay my bills. I did make sure multiple times that this was going to be permanent. I was quitting a good job for this, and I didn't want to have to scramble last minute. They swore up and down that it'd be until they were 3. I agreed, and I've had so much fun watching them this past year. They're now 18 months old. I've started to teach them colors, ABCs, etc. We go to playgroups so they can be with kids their age. My son and daughter-in-law sat me down last week saying they feel more comfortable with daycare. After doing research, they feel it's best they're in daycare now. They've already found one and gave me 2 weeks notice. I was upset. They promised me 3 years of work, and now I have to scramble to find a new job that'll pay as well as my last one. I said all of this, and they said it wasn't fair for me to expect them to keep to that. I pointed out what this would do financially to me, and they said they had to think of themselves. They're paying the daycare more, but it's worth it. I said now I don't know how I'll pay my bills, including my son's student loans that I pay. I left shortly after. My son says his wife cried and I shouldn't have guilted them about this. He said bringing up the money was manipulative. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They sat you down and told you they changed their minds without considering the repercussions for you. They should have given you at least a month to find a job. If you found one quicker they could have started daycare sooner. They are right about the 3-year commitment though. It is hard to plan out that far, especially when it comes to kids' needs. Regardless, force your son to take care of his responsibilities. His student loan debt is his responsibility, not yours. Aside from raising your son to be one, what he did was incredibly selfish and heartless towards his own mother. His wife knew the arrangement too and either let this happen, if not be the one to push it. The very least they could do is keep you on until you find a new job. But this insistence on 2 weeks shows how little they think or care about you. Stop paying his student loans immediately because you can no longer afford it. You need to look after yourself. Make sure you have a good retirement fund because your son has made it loud and clear that you'll be on your own. Arrange your finances accordingly. They broke their verbal contract. There should have been a clause to reevaluate after a certain time, but it sounds like everyone started this endeavor thinking 3 years was going to be the time range. I think they're allowed to change their minds, but given that you were adamant about clarifying the time, they should have given you much more notice. Also, it's shame extra hard since you pay for some of his student loans. Once I paid back the ones in my name, I took on the student loan payments that my mom took out for me. Not sure if there's a formal process for that though, but you should check into it. My brother dated Addie for 2 years. My parents liked her, but they didn't want my brother to marry her, so they were happy about the breakup. 5 months after the breakup, Addie contacted our parents to ask them to tell my brother that she was pregnant because she couldn't get in touch with him. They never told him, instead they told her that if my brother was involved, they would make sure he got custody and she would never see her baby again, but that they would provide financial support if she kept this quiet because the child was still their blood. It's obvious which choice she picked. I used to be close friends with Addie before she dated my brother, but she cut contact with me after they broke up since it wasn't a good breakup. We still have mutual friends, so we reconnected about 3 months ago, and she told me all of this a month ago. Their son is 2, and my brother found out 2 weeks ago and was livid. He blamed Addie and was awful to her and blamed me for not telling him as soon as I found out. On Sunday we were having a family dinner and my dad and brother were strategizing on how he would get his son full-time. I interrupted and told him he couldn't do that to Addie because she acted in fear. My brother exploded at me and was ranting about how she had kept his son from him and now she would know how that felt and that I had already shown him who my loyalty lies with since I never told him immediately. My parents were agreeing with him and telling me off too. I got annoyed by their hypocrisy, so I told him the truth about our parents and now he isn't speaking to them at all and they're blaming me for it. Am I the idiot? Your family is awful. Not the idiot. Your parents are the worst here. I feel so bad for that kid stuck in the middle of all of this. Should you have told your brother right away? Maybe, but I get that it's an awkward position to be in as Addie having this child isn't really your information to share. It's hers. And sharing the info about your parents when you did seemed like it was to help the child. That's my interpretation anyway. Your parents have no right to be mad at you for outing them on this. Your brother wanting to punish both Addie and the kid by taking the kid away from her. That's so wrong. Give Addie a heads up. Tell her to start looking into lawyers to protect herself and her child. Your parents and brother are idiots for treating an actual human with actual human emotions as if he's a prize to win in some kind of sick competition against Addie. Your parents are extra idiots for creating this ridiculous, toxic situation. I am not saying everyone's the idiot here because you got put into an impossible position and because there's not enough info about Addie to know if she's a participant in these sick games or strictly a victim of them. Not the idiot. Please testify on Addie's behalf if they try to take her child. Your parents are disgusting humans and are making your brother want to. None of this is appropriate. When both parents are capable and willing it's 50-50, not 100-0. The only way they would get that judgment is by lying and claiming things like endangerment or abuse. Please call them out in court, please. I've been dating my boyfriend for a year. He has this friend who's a girl, not that it really matters, it's just the situation altogether pissing me off. Even if it was a guy, I'd be bothered the same way. So, he's very close with her to the point that sometimes I feel like I'm third-wheeling them. I feel like I'm in one of those 3-people friend groups, and I'm the outcast, while the 2 other friends are closer. She'll always invite herself even to our own romantic couple dates. At first I tried to be patient with it and not make a huge deal out of it, but lately it's getting too much. I mean, I've always expressed some discomfort to my boyfriend about it, but he says we'll see what we'll do. But he does nothing. We were celebrating our 1-year anniversary last weekend and she called him mid-dinner and said she's coming over. We were having dinner at his house. He told her it's our anniversary and it's better to hang out another time, and she insisted and said she won't be a bother and will show up anyway because she's too bored to be alone. She hung up on him after that and 10 minutes later she showed up. During those 10 minutes I was really upset and talked to him about this and how it can't keep happening. He said he'll see what he can do about it and not to worry. So she came and decided she wanted to watch a movie. Then she started treating me like a maid, telling me if I could cook something so she could eat as well, because she didn't like the food we had prepared for our anniversary, and made a joke that we didn't think of her while preparing the food. To avoid a fight I let myself act like a maid for her. I shouldn't have. The next day we all arranged to go have drinks. During the whole time she kept complaining about how much she hates public places. She chose the place we went to and how she hates people. She always pointed out how disgusted she is by couples, and she's glad we're not the classic lovey-dovey couple and she can enjoy being out with us. Then I accidentally slipped and told her that it's because you never leave us the option of having lovey-dovey time alone. She took offense to it and confronted me by saying that if I don't like it, I should be the one to leave. I told my boyfriend that I'm tired of him bringing her around so she can boss me around and always have a negative energy about everything. She called me an idiot and my boyfriend partly agreed with her, saying I shouldn't take it too far. Once we got home I told my boyfriend that I've been telling him how it's bothering me for ages, yet he does nothing to fix this situation. He says I'm right, but I shouldn't be mean to her because she's upset now and she just wants to be friendly. That made me feel a bit guilty, and I wanna know, am I the idiot? I don't know what's happening with his friend and their relationship. Insisting on showing up to an anniversary dinner after being told no is some huge lack of respect for boundaries or deliberate sabotage of your relationship. Those are the only 2 choices. Don't know if you're ready to kick the boyfriend to the curb for not stopping this. If you're not, and you just want her to respect no every time she tries to include herself, say that she can't come over because it's date night and you're going to have naked time. It's hard to argue against that. And as a bonus, if the boyfriend freaks out about you telling her that, you know what's up with the 2 of them. Not the idiot. Especially when she, very out of her mind, told you that if you don't like the fact that she is a part of your relationship then you should leave. Sit down with your boyfriend and point that out to him. Tell him that he needs to decide now, and if he doesn't then sweetheart, I mean this in the kindest most caring way, you need to tell him the reason why you are leaving and leave. You will find better than this, I promise. Just by reading this, I wanted to smack that friend seriously. Your anniversary. And your boyfriend didn't do anything. I would have left her at the door, to be honest. Your boyfriend has demonstrated you again and again that he won't have your back and that he doesn't care about how you feel. Stop trying to make him draw boundaries, because it won't happen. You draw them yourself and stop being the maid here or leave. And for that friend, it sounds like she likes your boyfriend, is sabotaging your relationship, and when he is single she will be like, oh, I knew she wasn't good for you. Your boyfriend is an idiot, his friend is an idiot, and you would be an idiot if you stay in this. Think about it. I'll preface this by saying that I have 2 daughters, Amy, 27, and Lily, 19. Lily just had her first baby months ago. The father is out of the picture and she's only went to college 1 year, then dropped out to focus on her son. She's living with us right now and doesn't work. Amy is a college graduate, working and is engaged. She is doing well financially. She and her fiancé bought a decent apartment together. She visits every now and then, and she visited us yesterday for half an hour to tell us she was going to Ohio on a field trip with her friends and visit many places and national parks there. Lily looked sad throughout the entire visit and didn't speak till Amy left. I asked Lily what was wrong, and she said it wasn't fair that she doesn't have a job nor a degree nor enough money to buy nice things or a new phone. And not even time to go on trips and enjoy herself while Amy has money, recently bought new apartment and is going on a trip every now and then. She said it wasn't fair because she is younger than Amy and deserves to live her life too. She asked why. I frowned because I sensed some envy and resentment towards Amy, even though it's not her fault. This is how Lily's life like. I answered her question by saying that Amy didn't make any of the decisions Lily did and didn't choose all the roads Lily did, and so she shouldn't compare herself to her. Lily looked me stunned, saying did I just basically blame her for the decisions she made and the road she chose to walk down. I didn't respond, and she lashed out saying I was clearly judging her, which was cruel of me since she never said she regretted having her baby or dropping out of college, but I made it about that. I said I was sorry she misunderstood my point, and she called me few names, then stormed out of the kitchen and kept ignoring me and refusing to speak to me, saying I know what I did. Am I the idiot? I feel like Lily actually does deep down regret some of her life choices, maybe not always, but definitely when she is faced with her sister's lifestyle, reminding her of how things could have been. She is just ashamed to admit it to herself or others. So when the OP reminds her how the reality of Lily's situation is just a consequence of her own past actions, even though it wasn't meant in a reprimanding way, she goes defensive and refuses to own it. Lily needs to grow up for her own sake and her child's. I can understand how some things are hard to accept, but she has to. And in any case, all those things she envies about her sister are not impossible for her to achieve, it's just gonna be harder, and at a later time, than what she expects. She reacted how a child would react. I suppose she wanted you to tell her that nothing is her fault and reinforce her point that life isn't fair. I think you dealt with it the correct way. You explained that the decisions you make in life have an outcome. Lily looked me stunned, saying did I just basically blame her for the decision she made and the road she chose to walk down. I'm stunned that she was stunned at the idea that the decisions she made and the road she chose to walk down are her fault. Why don't I have any cake? The child asked, looking at their empty plate with icing and crumbs on their lips. The child points to their older sibling and demands their cake because they still have cake because they didn't eat it. The parent dusts off the old adage and says that you can't have your cake and eat it too, and that sibling doesn't have to give them their cake. It is in fact all about the choices we make. Who knows, in 8 years, if Lily makes the right decisions, she too could be a college graduate, working and engaged, and have a child.